Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Lang, we've been having a lot of discussion today about China's activities in Africa. Is there any buyer's remorse? China has sort of scaled back on Belt and Road to some extent, and some of the debt issues are now coming to the fore. Are there countries in Africa starting to rethink some of those commitments? Buyer's remorse is probably the best term.
Senator, great question, and I traversed for that for any indicators of that, and lo and behold, I saw a story this morning out of Kenya. They've taken to the streets of how China has been taking advantage of them in the deals that they strike. There's other indicators across the continent, other stories of debt trap diplomacy.
I call it debt colonialism.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Senator.
Well, so let me follow up. If that's the case, and it appears that it is, does this create an opening for us to be more active in infrastructure projects, support for development in these countries, that we can come in and show that it can be done in a much more efficient and skilled way?
Absolutely, Senator. That we do have that. We see that as an opportunity, as we call it a consolidated strategic opportunity, and we need to match it up with key strategic activities. And whereas we can use a whole of government approach, we can use Prosper Africa, Digital Africa, and get these programs off the ground and going. I know that I met with Assistant Secretary Molly Fee last week, and also I was over at USAID. And we have a plan of action collectively, whole of government, to be able to put it in motion.
Well, you use the term whole of government, and I think the private sector also has to be included in this in terms of development of resources. You used a phrase earlier that I noted about the Chinese efforts to monopolize and get a hold of these rare earths and minerals, forward thinking by the PRC. We haven't been doing that forward thinking. We've allowed them to take control of, for example, lithium, an essential element for EV batteries. 87% of the processed lithium that goes into EV batteries in this country comes from China. And we haven't been doing that forward thinking. I'm suggesting that that's something we should start to think about, and it should be a combination of government action, but also the private sector. We don't do everything by the government here.
Senator, that's correct. We don't tell the good news story enough, and that's why I provided the blue chart here. But on legislation passed for effectives such as Prosper Africa, it's also a message to our private industry to invest in Africa. That's what I talk about when I talk to the country teams, as they are heavily recruiting back in the U.S. for investment in the African nations and states.
Thank you. General Krula, King Abdullah was here about a month ago, and he said this was the most dangerous moment in Israeli-Palestinian relations that he'd seen in decades. Give me your analysis of the status of that. It seems like it's a very heightened sense of danger in terms of open conflict.
Senator, I agree with the statement of King Abdullah on that, and we watch this very closely. We think the conditions are there, the tinder and the kindling is there, and we don't know what it could take for what spark to be able to start a larger conflict in the West Bank.
Let me just ask a sort of parenthetical question. Often we get the question about Iran's nuclear capacity. Do you have a military analysis of what a strike, an airstrike, a significant, substantial airstrike on Iran's nuclear capacity would actually, what would be the impact of that on their ability to move toward a nuclear weapon?
I do, Senator, but I best believe that would be in a classified setting.
Okay, thank you. One other question in your AOR about stability, and that is Pakistan, a nuclear-armed country. They've had a lot of political issues lately. An assessment of the stability and long-term prospects for stability in Pakistan.
So they have I deal with the military relationship there. I have a great relationship with the Chief of the Army Staff, General Munir. I think the concerns right now in Pakistan are their budget, their financial situation, the current political situation, and the counterterrorism situation as they see the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistani, the TTP, the attacks are significantly increasing with the end of a ceasefire there.
Are you confident of their nuclear security procedures?
I am confident of their nuclear security procedures.
Thank you. That may be the first good news we've heard today. Thank you, General. Thank you, gentlemen.